and enter freely. All you see is yours for your momentary visit. And we who welcome you are but guests of God, and know not our departure. That's a short poem from Robert Louis Stevenson's Child's Garden of Verse, and I wanted to use that as an introduction because I think it's a nice greeting to all ages for this speech. When the Celestial Speakers Bureau agent called me up and said, you have an engagement in Kilmarnock. And I said, oh, well, that's very handy because I was born in Edinburgh, and that's just across the island, or across Scotland from my birthplace. And I can haunt Edinburgh very easily and then just go over to Kilmarnock, and I might even stop in at Mr. Johnny Walker's establishment and have a wee dram, and then speak. And the agent said, oh no, Mr. Stevenson, you got the wrong idea. You're in Kilmarnock in the United States. I was momentarily taken aback. But I was not disturbed because I realized that Kilmarnock is on the Chesapeake Bay, or near to it. And any place that's touched by salt water is a home to a sailor like me. And we'll talk a little bit later about how I got to be a sailor and places I went in my lifetime, because as you probably know from your introduction outside, I ended up in Samoa at the end. So I've been a lot of places. Okay. I wrote to my mother when I finished my schooling, and I said, you must understand that I shall be a nomad, more or less, until my days are done. And that was certainly true. Robert Louis Stevenson traveled a great deal, and I'm going to talk about some of those travelers in his writings. And I'm going to refer to him as RLS, which is the way most of his friends called him. I think we'll see as we go along how much variation, how many different ways he had of how many genres he participated in, all of the different kinds of writing that he did. And I think the quote that you saw probably on the trailer and is on my t-shirt, man is not truly one, but two. Well, in his writings, he was about 15 things. So it's a very varied life. First, we need to extend our thanks and appreciation to the organizers and impresarios who put this show together and on. So to Ms. Tanya, our celebrated children's librarian, and Ms. Shelley, our supreme techno wizard. Please let's give them a round of applause. And to all the staff, I know that they didn't dragoon, they got good volunteers from all the staff assistants to put together all these amazing decorations and all the different programs that we're going to see. So let me talk a little bit about who RLS was and how RLS came to the writer's profession. My grandfather was named Robert, as well as so I was named after him. My father was Thomas, and both of them were lighthouse engineers. So they designed, built, and maintained the aids to navigation that were placed along the coast, and primarily in places where there were rocks and reefs that sailors might go aground or go to trouble on. And they wanted me to be a lighthouse engineer as well. So I enrolled in the University of Edinburgh Civil Engineering program, but I have to say that the professors didn't get to know me very well in the lecture hall. They would not know me as they encountered me on the streets of Edinburgh, so that didn't look like a really good professional choice for me, but my father was pretty insistent, so I did, one thing it did do is in the summers, they had apprenticeship programs. So I went to lighthouse building sites and saw them under construction. Of course, they're always on the water, out in the wilds, and that gave us material. That gave me material for some of my later books, and it also introduced me to sailing, and which became a lifetime avocation and real sincere interest. But Thomas pretty clearly understood that the lighthouse engineering profession wasn't going to be mine. So he said, well, why don't you try the law? So I went back to school at the University of Edinburgh in the legal curriculum. And my heart wasn't in that either, though I did qualify and got my bar exam passed and became a lawyer, but I wanted to be a writer. And that's what I really wanted to do. So though the legal training gave me some ideas for future writings, it wasn't what I was going to do. So I took to writing, and I a lot of essays and travel pieces and journalistic kind of articles. And finally, in 1881, I had the serialization of a short novel, Treasure Island, and it appeared in the magazine Young Folks. And I began that as a project with my adopted son, stepson, I should say, during a summer stay in the Scottish coast. And believe it or not, there was bad weather there, so we were inside for a part of the time, and I had to entertain him. So we thought up this story, and I wrote it and got it serialized in Young Folks, and that kind of got me a start in the profession of writing. It enjoyed some success, and I began a fairly prolific period. I've serialized another novel, Kidnapped, which I recommend for all ages. It's in the youth section in our library, but it's good for any age. And also that poem I started with, Child's Garden of Verse. I wrote that then, and then the real success story was the novella Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And that made my reputation as a serious writer. So let me give you a little taste of these works. As I said earlier, my lighthouse apprentice work took me to lots of different building sites on rocky and desolate shores, and RLS incorporated those experiences in his description of a shipwreck which occurred and Kidnapped, and it led to the hero, David Balfour, being stranded on the Scottish North Sea coast. And David had been inducted on the orders of his villainous uncle, who was trying to keep him from his rightful inheritance. And so the uncle had David kidnapped, and he was taken on a ship he was going to the North American colonies as an indentured servant. And his life expectancy wasn't great because possibly during the cruise they may have just tossed him overboard, because that would be the quickest way of getting rid of this potential heir. But in any case, a lot of adventures go on. The novel is set in the 1740s after the Battle of Culloden. So the Scottish pretender has been disappointed again. And on board the ship he meets Alan Breck Stewart, who continues to support the pretender, Bonnie and Charlie. So there's some calamitous events that occur on the ship, which I won't disclose. I don't want to have any giveaways. So I'll just read about David's time as a castaway on the island. A sea-bred boy would not have stayed a day on Gray, which is only what they call a tidal inlet and except in the neaps, can be entered and left twice in every 24 hours, either dry shod or at most by waiting. Even I, who have the tide going in and out before me, in the bay, and even watch for the ebbs the better to get my shellfish, even I say, if I had sat down to think, instead of raging at my fate, would have guessed at the secret and got free. It was no wonder that the fishers had not understood me. The wonder was rather that they ever guessed my pitiful illusion and taken the trouble to come back. I had starved with cold and hunger on that island for close on 100 hours. But for the fishers, I might even have left my bones there in pure folly. Even as it was, I had brains. But in my present case, being clothed like a beggarman, scarce able to walk, and in great pain of my sore throat. I have seen wicked men and fools, a great many of both, and I believe they both get paid in the end, but the fools first. So, David walks off his island after figuring out that at low tide it's pretty accessible, and he encounters again Alan Breck Stewart. Unfortunately, Alan Breck has gotten himself again in a pretty pickle, and he's being pursued by English soldiers and the Campbell clan, and they want to arrest him for murder and treason. So Alan is fleeing them, and David needs his assistance to get back to confront his uncle. So there's a scene where he's in the Highlands on the run, and Alan needs his clansmen to come and aid him. And he sends a message. Here's that scene. Alan says to David, "I wish he was a man of more penetration, for by my troth I am afraid he will make little of it, enough of it. But this is what I have in mind. The cross is something in the nature of the cross terri, or fury cross, which is the signal of the gathering of our clans. Yet he will know well enough the clans not to rise. There it is, standing in his window, and no word with it. So he will say to himself, the son of Duncan is in the heather and has need of me. Well, said I, it may be, but even supposing so, there's a great deal of heather between here and the firth. That's a very true word, says Alan. But then John Breck will see the sprig of birch and the sprig of pine, and he will say to himself, he is a man of any penetration at all, which I misdoubt. Alan will be lying in a wood which is of both pines and birches. Then he will think to himself, that is not so very right hereabout. And he will come and give us a look at carrying a cage. And if he does not, David, the devil may fly away with him for what I care, for he will not be worth the salt to his porridge. Amen, said I, drolling with him a little. You're very ingenious, but would it not be simpler for you to write him a few words in black and white? That's an excellent observe, David Balfour of Shaw, says he, drolling in return. And it would certainly be simpler to write to him. But it would be a sore job for John Breck to read it, or he would have to go to school for 2 or 3 years. And it is possible he might weary waiting on him. Oh, that gives you a feeling for that novel, Kidnapped, and I highly recommend it. It's got lots of adventurous scenes and a happy ending, which I shouldn't disclose, and I won't. Okay. The novella, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that made my reputation. And it had a very strong and critical response. And so without disclosing any plot secrets, I'll read a short excerpt to give you a flavor of the work. And you'll see in this excerpt the training that RLS received as a law student was put to good use. This is a descriptive paragraph from early in the story. One of Dr. Jekyll's closest friends, the lawyer Mr. Utterson, is on his way home after a glimpse, and he sees Mr. Edward Hyde going into Jekyll's house by a side entrance. Mr. Utterson knocks on Jekyll's front door and asks for him. The butler, fool, reports the doctor is not at home. So we begin scene. And the lawyer set out home with a very heavy heart. Poor Harry Jekyll, he thought. My mind misgives me, he is in deep waters. He was wild when he was young, a long while ago to be sure, but in the law of God, there is no statute of limitations. I must be that, the ghost of some old sin, the cancer of some concealed disgrace. Punishment is coming, petty cloud over. Years after memory has forgotten and self-love condoned the fault. And the lawyer, scared by the thought, brooded a while on his own past, groping in all corners of his memory, lest by chance some jack-in-the-box of an old iniquity should leap to light there. His past was fairly blameless. Few men could read the rolls of their life with less apprehension. Yet he was humbled to the dust by the many ill things he had done, and raised up again into a sober and fearful gratitude by the many he had come so near to doing, yet had avoided. And then by return to his former subject, he conceived a spark of hope. This Mr. Hyde, if he were studied, thought he, must have secrets of his own, black secrets, by the look of him, secrets compared to which poor Jekyll's worst would be like sunshine. Things cannot continue as they are. It turns me cold to think of this creature stealing like a thief to Harry's bedside. Poor Harry, what awakening that would be. So, this story has been made into over 120 stage and film versions. The first one was which in 1887, which was only a couple of years after it was written. And the first film version was in 1908. The film version that Shelley pulled up was from 1941, and I can say it's a loose adoption. but it gives you the flavor of the psychological nature of the thriller. And it's gotten a lot of critical acclaim, and again, the library has it, and I highly recommend it. So, and short, to the point. Okay, I like this talk. Okay, I'm going to close with another poem from Child's Garden of Verse, which is, I hope will send you home on a happy and pleasant frame of mind. Here it is. My bed is like a little boat. Nurse helps me when I embark. She girds me in my sailor's coat. It starts in the dark. At night I go on board and say, good night to all my friends on shore. I shut my eyes and sail away and see and hear no more. And sometimes things to bed I take, as prudent sailors have to do. Perhaps a slice of wedding cake, perhaps a toy or two. All night across the dark we steer, but when the day returns at last, safe in my room, beside the pier, I find my vessel fast. Thank you all.